Good evening. Welcome to We Believe Digital Studios and the Sizzling in Mississippi show. Here we are again Monday night at 6:30, and glad to be back with you again. We got a super show lined up for you tonight. All kinds of stuff going on. 90 degrees here at 6:30 at night in Jackson, Mississippi. I think we got up to 107 at some point today, or no, I'm sorry, 97 at some point today. At least that's what the automobile was telling me. And I'm Chris Young alongside Maati, Jone, Primm. Good evening, Miss Primm.
Good evening. How are we doing?
Good to see your bright, shiny self as always.
Okay, thank you.
I wish all our topics were bright and shiny.
Oh, wouldn't that be lovely? One day.
We got a list for tonight, folks. And if you want to call in, please 1-800-492-5186. Feel free, or join us in the chat. We'd be happy to have you join us in the chat. And where do we want to start? I mean, we've got some topics tonight, Maati, that are not sizzling in Mississippi per se,
right?
But
they are indeed sizzling.
They are indeed sizzling. You want to go to the music man?
Sure.
First, or do you want to?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
So this was just putting together this Jason Aldean. Try that in a small town. And of course he made a point of after it was removed from rotation by country music television.
Yes, the video.
Right. That ought to, here's your sign, right?
Yeah.
Some ain't right here.
Right.
But he made a point of publicly saying that he didn't write the song. Mm-hmm. Not sure what that was all about.
Right. He performed it. Who cares?
He performed the song, and apparently been performing it for a while.
Right.
But pulled from CMT, very controversial. People calling it anti-Black Lives Matter. People calling it pro-lynching, pro-police, and some of the footage in the background.
Right. The video was filmed in front of the courthouse in Columbia, Tennessee. And Columbia, Tennessee is notorious for a lynching that happened there back in 1927, where a young black man was falsely arrested, accused of raping a white girl who did not identify him as her attacker, but they decided to arrest him anyway.
They knew better.
They actually even had police dogs to check his scent, and that turned out negative. So they just decided through mobocracy and groupthink, well, we'll just tie ropes around his arms and take him in. And the sheriff took him in to the jail there at that building. And the mob later on, when the sheriff supposedly was not there, demanded entry. And the sheriff had given the keys to the jail to his wife. And at first she said no, but they had dynamite and sledgehammers and axes. And so she decided that better he than me. And she gave the mob the keys. They went in and they bludgeoned this black man named Mr. Choates, and not to kill him yet, but to seriously injure him, giving him great harm and terror. And then they took him out and they tied a rope around him and the other end to a car and dragged him through town. When that wasn't enough bloodthirstiness, then they brought him back to the front of the courthouse and hung him from a window of the courthouse. Now, you would think that James Aldean or his production company probably knew something about that. or perhaps didn't care, or perhaps that was part of the dog whistle that was intended. This song, although removed from CMT's video rotation, is #1 on iTunes.
And you can't, I mean, how could you come up with that courthouse like randomly? It's just impossible.
Right.
Now this guy, and he's from Macon, Georgia.
Right.
Now
He's
we
not
know a
from
little something
Tennessee.
about Macon, Georgia.
We know a little bit of, well, my great-grandmother is from Macon, Georgia.
Wow.
And she was there enslaved.
Mm-hmm.
And she was brought from there, of course, against her will, from Macon, Georgia to Utica, Mississippi, to be on a plantation with 500 other Africans enslaved. Yeah.
So he chooses footage like this, and it looked like some could have come from Ukraine.
It did.
There was something from Canada.
Right, in Germany. It was from all over. And he's trying to say, well, the films that I'm showing, the clips, are real clips. So what? It's not balanced, it's not accurate, because some of this stuff didn't even happen in the United States.
Yeah, and it's not happening. It's not happening today.
Right.
So what is your point? What you are absolutely trying to raise up the past.
Right, absolutely. In a terrible way. He's not understanding that what they call riots are basically uprisings, and that is what Martin Luther King said was a voice of the voiceless. Mm-hmm. Because it's a language that gets attention when people are absolutely apathetic to your cause and your call for justice. Then burning things gets attention. Mm-hmm. And that's this is what's happened in this country. And it is the last resort, but it is the option that some have chosen to take. At the same time, one must ask, well, why would they burn a building? Why would they burn the United States flag? Mm-hmm. But that's never asked by those who are so highly critical.
Yeah, because they're so deep in it, they're not, that's not even enter their mind.
Right, but that's where the apathy is.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so we have the lyrics. Did you want to read through the lyrics? I know I read through the first verse and the chorus on the Newsbreak show.
Okay, would you do that again? Or I can do it.
Yeah. Well,
okay.
Now I don't know if all the punctuation is right in there or whatever, but
sure. Yeah, I can do this.
And we've got the up on the screen now, so the viewers can follow along.
Right. Sucker punch someone on a sidewalk. Carjack an old lady at a red light. Pull a gun on the owner of a liquor store. Yeah, you think it's cool. Well, act a fool if you like. Cuss out a cop. Spit in his face. Stomp on the flag and light it up. Yeah, you think you're tough. Well, try that in a small town. See how far you make it down the road. Round here, we take care of our own. You cross that line, it won't take long for you to find out. I recommend you don't try that in a small town. Got a gun that my granddad gave me. They say one day they're gonna round up. Well, that SH might fly in the city. Good luck. Try that in a small town. See how far you make it down the road. Round here, we take care of our own. We cross that line. You cross that line, it won't take long for you to find out. I recommend you don't try that in a small town. Full of good old boys, raised up right. If you're looking for a fight, try that in a small town. Try that in a small town. Try that in a small town. See how far you make it down the road. Round here, we take care of our own. You cross that line, it won't take long for you to find out. I recommend you don't try that in a small town. Try that in a small town. Ugly.
Ugly.
Violent.
Dog whistle.
Threatening.
You know, just to add a different perspective, I heard on another white country singer, what they interviewed on MSNBC. I don't know if I'm not huge into that genre, so obviously, but
I guess I didn't need to say that.
I'm just trying to say, I don't know if this one is more popular than the other. I tend to think Aldean, I seem to hear his name more than Jason Isbell. And Jason Isbell is from Green Hill, Alabama, just a stone's throw away from Florence, Muscle Shoals area, very, very high up northwest Alabama. And they interviewed him. And they asked him about, and he said, he knows he didn't write the song, but obviously he performed the song. And he said he tries to focus himself in songwriting on telling what's going on in his life, emotions, things that are happening, problems, different stuff, and the core, he said, of his songwriting is truth telling.
Okay.
And he immediately said, that's not the truth. Those things are not going on in America today that they put in the background. And he immediately, scorned the whole thing. He didn't go off on Aldean, but he made it clear that he thought that was wrong. And he said a very interesting thing, Maati. He said, all I see is an attempt at white masculinity. So this white country singer, very popular in his own right, is saying about the other guy's music video, what I see is an attempt at white masculinity.
Wow. Well, I mean, in all of this, when they're talking about don't try this in a small town, what they have shown, history has shown, that when they decide that they're going to lynch someone,
you're going to pay.
Yeah, and it's going to be a mob. Talking about masculinity, I would think that it would be man to man.
Right.
An even playing field. If you feel that you are so manly and so inclined to commit violence, why is it that you have to have a mob with you?
Right.
If you are all of this, that, and the third, why do you need all of that for one person?
Yeah. And
while this young man was in the jail, there was a janitor who came by and said that, they're coming for you. They're going to come for you, and you need to pray. And the young man replied, Mr. Schultz, yes, I know.
The fate was sealed.
Yeah. Once they got to his grandfather's house, that was it.
So, and then the other part that you shared, the idea that even though CMT pulled the video out of rotation, it's at the top of the iTunes charts.
Right.
And then we're forced to ask ourselves, so, what's that about? Is it, did just the talk of it incite, a spirit from so many people that we know are out there? What percentage of that is just pure curiosity, where clear-minded people are saying, well, God, what are they talking about? I want to see it or hear it or whatever, for themselves. So then you're kind of left to, at least for my own self, left to, think that through.
But, curiosity would just lead, or should lead somebody to just look at it on social media without having to download it from iTunes.
To download the song.
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's a problem that I'm having.
Or the whole drama of it too. And I don't know which point this goes to, but it makes me think of the car racing with the NASCAR.
Right.
And are all those people there? They buying a ticket to see a crash?
Yeah.
And the whole social media thing.
Yeah.
The short attention span, the quick, anything for a click.
Yes.
There's other words for it, but they're not coming to me right now.
Okay.
Really, really just, it's a sad commentary.
It is. Yeah. This is horrible, and it speaks to a mindset that still exists. We're
Yes.
seeing it in music, but we're also seeing it on the street.
Yeah, to different extents at different times. I was just reading the other day, was it Travis Boyd or Travis Bell? And when was that? Was that, I don't know, 2005 or something, down in Texas? And those, they dragged him behind the pickup truck. And so,
I think his last name was Bird. But
Bird,
Yeah.
Travis Bird, thank you. And we've got another story we wanted to announce tonight. I just found out about last night, but it again linking to police brutality over in Rankin County, and just horrific. So yes, it is going on today. It's happening all the time today. We've got another story tonight about this Ohio thing with the dog, unleashing the dog on a surrendering person that was unarmed.
Right.
And so this stuff is going on. And so I don't know. I mean, unless this guy is a complete, it defies logic that he doesn't know what he's doing.
Well, I think he knows what he's doing. I don't think he cares what he's doing. He has stated that, this is a quote, these references to the music video talking about the lynching and how it was done, these references are not only meritless but dangerous, he wrote. There is not a single lyric in the song that references race or points to it. And if there isn't a single video clip that isn't real news footage. And while I can try and respect others to have their own interpretation of a song with music, this one goes too far. Now, there are obvious references to race.
Obvious.
From the get-go.
Yeah, because we don't live in a vacuum. We
No.
have our history.
Right. You don't have to say
bled over
black
into
people.
today. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. We can tell by the lyrics of what he's saying, the descriptions. The one about the convenience store and showing a young black man in a hoodie.
I was told by a relative in California yesterday on the phone that he researched it, and he said, Chris, guess where he was last New Year's Eve?
Where?
Mar-a-Lago.
I know there's a picture out there that with him and Trump.
Yeah.
Arm in arm.
And apparently, my sister-in-law is a fan.
Okay.
And she had bought some tickets. He's coming right to their town in California.
Okay.
But now they're they think they're going to find a way to get rid of the tickets, or I don't know if the decision's final yet, but they're definitely second thought on all that now.
It's just a horrible thing to write.
Was that his comments?
That was his. Yeah.
But let me ask you something, Maati. You just read from those comments. I mean, did you see it anywhere in there? Did you see anywhere where he's saying, I hear what people are saying. That was not my intention. I've got plenty of black or minority fans. And if any of them were offended by this, I'm terribly sorry. I would never want to offend, any of my fans. Did you hear any of that in the?
No.
Not a word, anything resembling that.
There's no
Ownership.
No, and there's no apology.
Yeah,
there's
all
no nothing. Everything is
pushback.
everybody else is wrong.
Yeah.
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 Anyone who disagrees with me is wrong. Yeah.
Well, are we just about there with that topic?
Yeah.
We ran out of time on this segment, so we're just going to drop out for a little bit for a couple of commercials, and we'll be right back.
Looking for the hottest content in the city of Jackson and surrounding areas? Check out WeBelieveDigital.com. Also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. We Believe Digital Podcast is here for all your podcasting needs.
The Mississippi Link is an African-American female-owned newspaper with a trusted voice that is highly respected throughout the city, state, and nation. Our motto, keepers of the knowledge for people who speak the truth since 1993. Link significantly influences the thoughts, attitudes, and buying decisions of its readers. Call us at 601-368-8481 for your advertising needs. If you would like to receive a newspaper in the mail each week, our annual subscription is only $52 per year. That is only $1 per week for you to stay informed regarding many stories that you can only get in the Mississippi Link. Sign up today at themississippilink.com and click on Home Delivery.
And welcome back to Sizzling in Mississippi. We're glad you're here with us on We Believe Digital Studios, We Believe Digital Media. Please join us in the chat and just kind of talking about these topics tonight like we always do. And if you're just joining us now, we just finished up talking about this country music star Jason Aldean and his dog whistle
Pro-lynch.
Pro-lynching, pro-gun, try that in a small town, a video, song, what have you. And now we're going to shift, from, I guess you could say with country music and all, from the Nashville area to Ohio. And here's this young man, 23 you said?
Yes.
Jadarius Rose.
Yes.
Pulled over for a traffic stop, and all hell breaks loose for this young black man out on the side of the road beside his truck, and you have this clash going on between the local police. I want to, was it?
They said he was missing a mud flap. Of this for missing a mud flap on a sunny day. Okay? He's 23 years old, Mr. Jadarius Rose. So obviously he hasn't been a truck driver very long. He notices that there are police sirens, which for a black man is sometimes a death sentence.
Yeah.
It's like the Grim Reaper coming to knock at your door.
Right.
And so he calls 911
right.
to explain the situation and to ask for assistance. What should I do? And the operator says, well, go ahead and pull over and obey their instructions, which really isn't always the best advice. But he does pull over, and he does exit his cab. And one of the knuckle-dragging troglodyte cops, who has a police dog with him.
Now this is the city cop.
Right.
Not the state.
Right.
Not the Ohio State Police.
Right, because the Ohio State Police instruct the city cop not to release the dog.
Circleville Police.
Right.
Circleville.
Right, yeah. Yeah, Jerkwater, USA, otherwise known. Yeah. AKA Jerkwater. Yeah.
So this is going on long enough where you got state police is now on the scene, and they're telling
right.
the other people they can see the guy's got his hands up as
right.
clear in the video.
Right. Yeah.
And he's
standing,
unarmed. He's
right.
got it, and he's already called 911 himself.
Right.
He's standing there with his hands up,
Right.
and he sees they're getting ready to. The state police sees they're getting ready to unloose that canine,
Yeah.
and tells them not to, and they do it anyway.
Yeah.
They must have thought that was their jurisdiction. And do what I want.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so hideous. And by this time, the young man's on his knees with his hands up when the dog is unleashed. And this dog is over 100 pounds.
4th of July and the broad light of day.
Yeah. What they call Independence Day for some Americans. Yeah.
4th of July, broad light of day.
Yeah. Doesn't that just say it all? Doesn't it just say it all?
And
It's the
there's
reason why black people consider Juneteenth our Independence Day
right.
and the 4th of July as the 4th of July. Sometimes we say the 4th of they lie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The local cop, the one that had the canine,
Yes.
yelling at Rose. I don't know if this is their quotes or go to the ground or you're gonna get bit.
Yeah.
Now, how many police you got around and they're worried about? I mean, it's just
Right, there was no reason for it. There was nothing. First of all, you're stopping him because he's missing one rear mud flap. One rear mud flap.
the highway patrol sees what's going on and about to
Right.
go down and tells him, "Come to me."
Right.
It's almost like
Yeah.
he sees the situation is so over-amped. More that white masculinity, no doubt.
Right. Yeah. Well.
That's a crummy name for that.
It is. It's
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
Hostile.
The cop looking for his white hood.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so
And his noose.
so Mr. Rose, it said that he'll be charged with failure to comply with an order or signal of a police officer, a 4th-degree felony.
How?
I mean, that's just what's being
No, but,
reported here by
but it's
U.S.
also
News.
It has also been suggested to people that if they do not feel comfortable pulling over at a certain spot when
Don't, yeah.
right, do not. Simply, you can go to the local police precinct if you know where that is. You can pull over in a part of the city that is more populated. Anything. But you don't have to do that. And so I'm wondering, why on earth are they calling this a felony?
Right. It said it could face between 6 and 18 months in prison.
Well, he better not.
They said he was arraigned the following day and posted bond on the 7th, 2 days later.
Yeah, and with his arms bitten and his leg bitten.
Now, you've never seen a line like this before, have you, Maati? It's not clear whether the officer responsible for directing the dog to attack Rose faces any disciplinary actions. You've never seen a line like that reported, have you?
I see it all the time,
It's the
and now he's
standard.
he's on paid vacation. He's on paid leave. No, he should, if he's going to be on leave because we're questioning his obvious violation.
Right.
His
Inciting the
assault.
situation.
His assault
absolutely.
with a deadly weapon on a so-called citizen. I don't know how much citizenship black people have in this country, but that's a crime. So why is he getting paid to sit at home and watch CMT videos?
Right.
Until they decide that they don't want to show Jason Aldean anymore.
And they said they immediately convened a use of force review board, and they're reviewing the incident, and they plan, this will be next week now, week of July 31st. They say they're going to release the findings of the use of force review board. So we'll be able, maybe by next week's show, who knows?
Okay.
We'll be able to maybe they'll have it out by then.
Okay, have some type of update. Well, it's horrific. It's horrific, and it is so reminiscent
I was just going to
of
say the
Birmingham.
connection, right, with the dogs.
You know, Birmingham, Alabama, 60 years ago. It looks the same way. Sicking dogs on teenagers.
R. Speakman. That's
And
the
children.
officer's name, R. Speakman.
Yeah, yeah,
They don't have his badge number, but they have his name in this
Yeah.
U.S. News report.
yeah. It's,
And the
it's
state trooper,
ridiculous.
they had a quote saying the state trooper can be heard yelling multiple times
Right, do
before Speakman releases the dog. Do
Right.
not release the dog with his hands up.
Right,
You know,
yeah. There should be a lawsuit.
so there was a level head in the middle of all that, trying to
Right.
do the right thing, seeing that it was
Right.
way overboard,
Right,
trying to reel it back in, but
right, yeah.
couldn't tell that Circleville,
Yeah.
Ohio cop nothing.
Well, maybe he should have told him, if you release that dog, I'm going to consider that this a possible assault and shoot the dog. So if you don't want the dog shot, then maybe you shouldn't release him.
Yeah.
Maybe that would have been the type of language that this cop could have understood.
Right.
Yeah. It's just a vicious assault.
I don't know, what does that picture look like to you? Is that a lady police officer?
It could be. It's hard to tell.
I don't know.
Yeah. And it just really, you know, it kind of looks, to me, it kind of looks like a woman, yeah.
Looked like she was having a hard time looking at whatever it was she was seeing.
Yeah, yeah. But, you know, Jim Clark, the public safety director of Birmingham, Alabama, back in the early 60s,
Yep.
would be proud. I'm sure he's dancing in his grave
Right.
at this point. It's horrific. And it's so reminiscent that it's just, the only difference is that this is in color. And that was in black and white film.
And the other thing too, Maati, I mean, you know, what does it take for these things to end up getting on the news, and how many things are happening that people are just clueless about that we never find out about?
Right.
These are just the things we know
Right.
about.
Right. Well, I know that people are criticizing Mr. Rose, the 23-year-old. I know that they're criticizing him.
They are.
Yeah, of course. They're saying, well, all he had to do was pull over. But how do you do that as a young black man in America and give yourself over to police officers that may kill you? This is what they have to think about. Other people don't necessarily have to think that way. It's the way that black women have to think every time we go to a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
No, for black men, the chief weapon used against them is police authority. The chief weapon used against black women in America are doctors.
New York Times, just a few days ago, did you see that article about bridging over here to a little, you know, broadening the story a little bit? I mean, New York Times had an article just maybe 4 or 5 days ago where they cited a UN report that says that the horrific health outcomes for black and other minority women and in the Americas, the Americas, you know, are systemic racism and sexism, not poor choices.
No, because it doesn't matter our educational levels, it doesn't matter our social status, it can happen to any woman.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you know, actually we're not minorities. Black people aren't minorities.
Right.
Yeah.
When we look at the broad picture.
Well, yeah, or if you look at a small picture, like on this block, right? How many white people do you think are standing on this block right now?
One.
Right, you.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Yeah, I see what you
Yeah,
mean.
yeah, you know. So it's amazing how we get we get the term minority thrust on us all the time as if we're 2 billion people who are outnumbered. And I want to say by whom?
And we're gonna have to use that word minority more times on this show tonight as we move into some of these other stories, Maati. I mean, it's quite a thing. This whole construct of race and what it was intended for.
Yeah.
I just found out a couple of nights ago from Angela Harris, the president of the Rankin County NAACP, that there will be a national summit against police brutality and injustice coming up next month over in Rankin County. And we've talked how many times about this brutal back in January of this year, in January. But
the assault on the 2 young men and one of the young men being shot in the mouth.
That's right.
And the attempted rape of these 2 men by police officers.
And there was a NAACP sponsored event. It was picked up by local media, covered it well. But now they want to bring in the big guns, because what's going on is that these men were brutalized at the hands of not only 6 Rankin County deputies, but then we found out an off-duty officer from
Richland?
In other words, not a deputy, but a police officer from Richland. And so there's actually 7 on 2.
Yeah.
And handcuffed and brutalized them. Michael Jenkins and Eddie Parker.
Right.
But
see, it's the same thing again, the ganging up. It's a mob.
It's a mob.
It's a mob. And the mob has, in order to feel strong, the mob has to outnumber its victims.
You bring in reinforcements, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. There's got to be
They're
at least
real
3
men.
or 4 for,
They're real men, though.
Yeah, 3 or 4 for every 1 man, yeah.
But this is going to be Saturday, August 26th. I don't have the exact time, but the families will be there. The men themselves, Michael Jenkins and Eddie Parker may well be there. I know the Rankin County Sheriff has been invited because he was invited. He'll be invited because he was invited the last time, but was a no-show.
Right.
And this is at the Pilgrim Rest Methodist.
Missionary Baptist.
Missionary Baptist Church, 925 Trickham Bridge Road, in Brandon, 39042, Pilgrim Rest, Missionary Baptist Church, and sponsored by NAACP, the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party. Whoa! All right now, they're in on it.
MFDP.
The Black
Queen Fannie Lou Hamer's organization.
Well, and we've shared with the people before that MFDP is still alive. It's not only still on the books in Mississippi, but it's alive and well.
Yes.
But it's up in Lexington.
Right. It's always been kind of a Delta-centered
and
headquartered. Rather.
But they have, not only do they have the state office there, but they have 4 municipalities.
Yes.
That have active membership.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's any. I just wonder. I know I've talked to you about that a year ago, probably, but if there's any merit to try to expand that and bring that back in a larger scope than just 1 county.
Right. But that's where, of course, it was founded in the Delta. So it's never waned from its purpose. It's always been there, and alive and well, like you said.
And Attorney Malik Shabazz, representing these victims, will be there. Presidential candidate Dr. Cornel West will be at this event, August 26th, and hosted by Mississippi U.S. Senate candidate, Priscilla Williams Till, who you've told me you've met before.
Right. Yeah, several times.
I didn't realize she was running for Senate.
Right.
Good for her. So anyway, any questions about that? You can write to attorney.shabazz. That's attorney.shabazz@yahoo.com if you have any questions about that. So, just a tad over a month from now, a national summit against police brutality and injustice.
Yes.
I got a sneaking suspicion there's going to be a lot of cameras over there.
I'm sure.
And I don't think it's going to be the little guys either.
No.
I think some big boys are going to, big
think
boys
so.
and girls are going to find out about Brandon, Mississippi.
Yeah, it's going to get a reputation that it probably deserves, considering in the center of town is a Confederate soldier statue.
That's right. You
And
gotta
white
drive right
marble,
around
you
it.
have to drive around
Yeah.
it in order to proceed.
Yeah. And also, even though we're out of time for this segment, we'll just take off a little time on the final segment. But it's all on the state attorney general now. If these people get charged, these deputies that have either resigned or end up getting let go. I wish I knew the numbers. My gut tells me about 5 of them resigned and 1 of them got let go. But why have they not been charged yet? What does it take when you have national organizations in on this? You have the Department of Justice, you have a Civil Rights Division looking in on this. What does the Mississippi Attorney General, Lynn Fitch, what does she need? I mean, what else is missing? And Jody Owens has called her out tremendously on this.
Yes.
Last week or the week before. But we're still waiting for you, Attorney General Fitch. These men were absolutely brutalized by law enforcement, and
Including being waterboarded.
just horrific. And where are you, Attorney General? Who are you working for? Are you the advocate of the people? I just help us. Help us get an answer on this. Because if you keep waiting now till next month, boy, oh boy, you're going to bring the spotlight. Maybe that's what's needed. You're going to bring a spotlight on Mississippi if you continue to have inaction on this topic. The way I hear it, inaction is intentional. So I would ask the Attorney General, what's up here? Talk to us. Tell us something.
Yeah. We want to hear.
So we're dropping out. Thank you. Dropping out for a couple of commercials, and we'll be right back.
SocratesGarrettENT.com is a diversified firm specializing in recycled aggregates and crushed concrete. SocratesGarrettENT.com's recycled materials provide the construction industry with significant economic and environmental benefits by recycling clean concrete rubble into MDOT grade rock materials. Recycled aggregates and crushed concrete can be applied to driveways, road construction, bank protection, parking lots, general bulk fills, and more. For more information, please call 601-896-0084 or visit us online at SocratesGarrettENT.com.
Have you had your Earthblend coffee today? At Earthblend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying and flavorful taste. Experience the world in one cup with Earthblend Coffee.
To order, visit earthblendcoffee.co now.
And welcome back to Sizzling in Mississippi. We got a short segment to go now. We got about 10 minutes or so. And we've got 2 other topics we wanted to talk to you about. Again, we'd be happy to see you in the chat. Join the community. We realize that the scheduling is tough for a lot of people. We do see a lot of people seeing the program at different times, going back and watching it at different times. So we're certainly glad you're doing that. And we're always open to any feedback you may have about the show, if what we could do to improve the show in any way, or any suggestions you may have. We're always wide open for that. Maati, here we are in Mississippi, and we've had this TANF scandal.
Yes.
And we could go back and forth on the actual number, but let's just say upwards to $100 million
Right.
pilfered from the federal safety net provided to the state of Mississippi and all other states
Yeah.
as a safety net for the poorest of the poor.
Yeah.
And under Republican administration, these folk and their appointees, you got 2 governors directly involved that we know about.
Bryant.
Thank you.
Right.
It wasn't coming out. Bryant and Reeves, directly involved. You got all kinds of legal stuff going on, but of course they appointed the people that run that whole show.
Yes.
Those people have pled guilty. The appointees have pled guilty. And but the legal process is going on, but not one Republican hearing in the legislature about this TANF scandal. Democrats have held 2 hearings thus far. They were a couple of months ago. So my question is this: would it behoove us to have an organization? Maybe it's the NAACP, maybe it's Mississippi Poor People's Campaign. Would it behoove us to have an organization at this stage of the game? Because now, technically, we're like 2 to 3 years removed from,
Right.
would it behoove us to ask an organization to demand an accounting of what's going on with TANF funds today? What went on last year? Just give us last year, for example.
Right.
Here we are well into 2023. Just give us 2022. How much money did you get? How much of it's been spent? What did you spend it on?
Right.
Out in the public domain.
Right.
What do you think?
Well, I mean, this is a public issue. It's a budget issue. It's a governmental. So there should be transparency. Yeah, the federal government coming in.
Have you seen any?
No.
Okay.
No, I haven't seen any at all.
Me neither.
But yeah, that's the whole. But I think that it should be, and it should always be that way for whatever government expenditures are going on in Mississippi or anywhere in this country. It should be a transparency. We should know, if we want to know what's going on with it, we should have full access.
I think all these departments, all these agencies, Maati, I believe should be, nearly all of them have websites.
Right.
Not all of them, but nearly all of them
Right.
have websites. And I think they ought to be required on a quarterly basis to post the outcomes that they're seeing and what they're doing with the expenditures provided to them via the representatives
Yes.
by the taxpayers.
Right. It's taxpayer money.
We should ask some of our local folks if they can write that bill.
I mean, they could, but is it going to see the light of day? No.
No, but that's really sad, and we really wonder, what the audience thinks of that. This bold, immoral theft. Sending wrestling family people to rehab in fancy Malibu.
Oh.
All expenses, limo, airfare.
I wish I had a habit.
and then you got the tater with the fitness boot camps and specialty gym, and and you got the Brett Favre and the volleyball stadium, and I mean it just outright theft of and it wasn't just the DHS. Other agencies had to have a hand in that, and some things were brought in front of like IHL.
Okay.
And IHL signed off on it. The volleyball stadium, because that's so it's more than just those people.
Yeah.
But the Republican legislature is letting the legal stuff take its course, and don't talk about it while that's happening.
Yeah, well, that's the usual response, and it's unfortunate. And what'll go on is that the longer it goes on, the more people start forgetting and paying attention to other things that come in their view, and then this just becomes not even a historical footnote. It'll be forgotten.
We're not going to let that happen.
No. That's the only way that it doesn't. But, people have to remember. And we have to keep asking the question. And I think that organizations can probably have a better voice in requesting this than just a citizen.
Well, it's just like with the NAACP sued, on the HB 1020.
Right.
And look what happened. I mean, 3 months into 2 months into the lawsuit, and the Department of Justice has joined the suit.
See, yeah.
So, right is right, wrong is wrong.
That's it.
And very interesting that these lawsuits flying about 2343, Senate Bill 2343, and HB 1020, authored by attorneys.
Yes.
Authored by attorneys that I believe have some sort of a obligation, to act within the parameters of law, and here these things are being contested that they're unconstitutional.
Right.
But yet drafted by attorneys.
Interesting.
How you figure that?
Well, it's all going to come down to interpretation.
You're exactly right. The last thing we had on the list tonight, folks, was minority contracting. Minority contracting in Mississippi. Tough stuff. Big story coming out later this week in the Mississippi Link about this topic. We're just barely touching the surface here tonight. But Maati, 5.5% of the funds, the monies, the dollars that go to contracts awarded by the state of Mississippi. 5.5% of the funds of those contracts go to minorities. Now, 41.2% of the population of Mississippi is minorities. 37.8 of that 41.2 is black. But in FY 2022, 5.5%. And in the article, I'm going to be able to demonstrate that it's far less than that they play shell game with some of these numbers.
Right.
Moving things around.
Right.
The dollar value, according to the summary page of the minority participation report, says that over $200 million in 2022 went to minority contracting. Over $200 million. What's not on the front page is that 3.5 billion went to non-minority contractors. 200 million, it's actually, they say 206. 206 million versus 3.5 billion.
Yeah.
Just bizarre.
Hugely.
In a state that's the blackest state in the country.
Right. Even with it being undercounted.
Got to be underestimated. Got to be undercounted. Yes, but the number in the census was 37.8%. But then when you add in Asian Americans, Native Americans, Pacific Islanders, Hispanics, when you pull that all together, and it comes out to 41.2% of the population of your state is minorities, and yet you're tossing 5% of the money that you allot. Taxpayer money.
Right.
Taxpayer money.
Right.
Minorities pay taxes last time I checked.
Yeah, I mean, it's first of all, black people are more than 37% of the population in Mississippi.
Yeah.
We know that by looking at all the major cities. We also know by looking at the smaller entities that even with the smaller entities where there may be a majority white population, the black population is still substantial, and the town is small.
Right.
It's tiny.
Yeah.
Okay? On the major cities, black people, like in Jackson, it's basically 90%.
Right.
They can go for 85, but it's basically 90%.
Right.
So you're talking about contracts, and you're talking about black businesses, you're talking about getting rid of poverty. You're talking about
Livelihoods,
funding
families.
education
Yes.
and health care and housing. That comes through tax revenues. And it comes through building up an infrastructure where people who may have a higher economic status might find Mississippi attractive if the opportunities present themselves.
If the opportunity existed.
Right, but it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So the way that it's done here makes sure that the status quo is maintained.
Just the knee on the neck. It just never ends. And you know the most horrible thing. You've probably known this forever, but you know I mean I know I had heard this before, but seeing this report, reading through this 300-page report, white women, non-ethnic. They have a category, a minority classification, if you can even believe this. I know you think I'm lying to you. They have, under minority classification, they have a line item for other non-ethnic women. Non-ethnic women is white women. And so under minority contracting, 78.46% of the total dollar amount that was contracted.
206 million.
Well, in one place it says that, but in the fine detail it looks more like 188 million.
Okay.
But 126 of the 188
Yeah.
went to white women
Right.
under minority contracting.
And what should be noted is that these white women are married to white men, and so it's kind of a ghosting.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
it's a Trojan horse where we put the white woman up front so that
To get in the door for sure.
To qualify as a minority
It's working.
business enterprise.
Yeah.
And they do it all around the country. This is a common offense, and it should come with a punishment for it, but it doesn't.
Well, I'm still researching it, but what I found out so far is that while what you're saying is absolutely true, there's still a stark difference between being every state has women business enterprise opportunities.
Right.
Every state.
Right.
But only this state for sure, and it looks like Alabama and Louisiana group that
Yeah.
under the minority
Right.
classifications.
Other states don't do that.
That's
Yeah.
the rub.
Right.
And so when you get down to it, it's going to end up looking like about 1.6% of the contracts that are let by the state of Mississippi end up going to black contractors. Just another reason we're just sizzling in Mississippi.
Exactly.
Any parting thoughts? Closing thoughts?
It's just exhausting to see all the things that have happened this week that we're talking about. Not just the budgets, not just the TANF, but young black men
Cruelty.
being attacked by a police dog reminiscent of Birmingham.
Yeah.
And then the two young men being assaulted in Rankin County, Mississippi, and it just continues.
Still no
to go
charges.
on. Right, and then we have someone singing songs about the joy of brutalizing black people.
Ain't gonna make it down the street.
Right, and he ends up #1 on iTunes.
Number one, ka-ching, ka-ching.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for watching, everybody. We wish you well. Good to see you, Mr. Lewis. We wish you well, and I hope you have a good week. We'll be back with you next Monday night at 6:30. Take good care of yourself.